What's happening, guys? Today's episode is about the dyslexic rules to live by. What I've learned from chatting to a lot of different very successful dyslexics about what rules you can live by to maximize your dyslexia. I hope you enjoyed today's episode, guys, and please subscribe, please comment, please share this out so people can get the value that's here. So the big question is this: how can dyslexics like us create a place, a community, a tribe where people at any stage of life can come and solve any challenge, amplify their strengths, and ultimately help them become who they were meant to be, or in other words, conquer their dyslexia? That is the question, and this show is the answer. My name's Theo Goff, and welcome to the Conquering Dyslexia podcast. What's happening, guys? I hope we're doing good. And today I want to have a really good conversation talk to you, and something I'm really interested in is, and I've sort of thought about this, and it's basically because I feel that, look, I'm doing this dyslexia summit, speaking to so many different people who have overcame their dyslexia to a point that they want to help teach and educate others and build a lifestyle around that, and I'm learning from them. And you know what the most interesting thing is? There's so many common traits between all these different people. So many common traits between all these different, so-called successful dyslexics who have overcome those challenges and are one, making a difference. Number two, they are working in their area of strengths, or the gifts that dyslexia gives them. And number three, they're grateful for the fact they have this thing called dyslexia, which on the surface at the start seems absolutely insane to be grateful for the fact that you've got this thing called dyslexia. And I do believe that every single day I'm grateful for the fact that I have it, because I think differently, I act differently. Of course I struggle, but the struggle will often turn itself into a positive. But no one starts there. No one starts believing dyslexia is a gift when they're going through all the struggles in schooling, all the struggles outside of schooling. And so what I want to talk to you is really key rules to live by when you're dyslexic. These are the rules that will really, if you really install them, saying, okay, this is a value, this is what I do, this is how I think moving forward, it would drastically change the outlook of your life and how the experience of dyslexia is affecting you. Now, firstly, I want to say with these rules that I share with you, the 5 rules, that I'll talk to you them and to talk to you here, and it might make some sense, but it's quite hard to actually install them in your life. And because the main reason is because oftentimes we hear good advice. We hear things now and again from the outside world. Oh, we listen to this podcast, we listen to this person, I had a chat with this person, it was really, really cool. But we don't do anything about it. Why? We don't condition ourselves to do things. Because the reason why I'm taking action all the time on doing things I want to do, because I condition myself, because I set my day up with rituals that help me produce the best out of me. For example, I get up at a certain time, I do certain things. You might say, oh, that's too much hard work, I don't like doing that. Well, if you don't like setting yourself up, doing rituals, having a plan, having focus, if you think that's too much hard work, then you won't be able to be productive, you won't be able to conquer dyslexia, you won't be able to do the things that maybe you want to do, because let's be honest, if you're not willing to do the so-called little things, simple things, day after day after day, you'll never be able to install them long term. So in order to install these 5 rules, as it were, of dyslexia, you have to be able to take responsibility of them and have a system in place so you can install them. Now how can you get a system in place where you can install these? Write them down. Think about them, make notes about them, review them. But it's just about a systematic process that every single day you're doing something where you can kind of evaluate yourself, test yourself, and learn a lot of stuff. Because here's the interesting thing. There's so many different ways I could write these. There's so many different ways I could phrase these. And basically, I've heard these 1,000 different times in 1,000 different ways on a lot of different podcasts, a lot of different books, a lot of different this. I've spoke about it. I've learned in a lot of different ways, but ultimately, it is the same thing. Ultimately, you get to the same outcome. Because if you because that my thing is, look, you don't have to word for word what I say. Like, yes, this will be helpful information, but if you listen to something every single day, that just helps you improve, helps you learn more, helps you develop more, then you're going to end up with these same things just installed in you in a way that you understand better. Because you listen to different things, you take different advice from different people, and it would help. It would help you moving forward. So, first one is don't limit yourself. First, when you have dyslexia, and one of the biggest things that stops people is that they limit themselves, isn't it? I know with myself, I limited myself so much growing up with what am I going to do as a work, what my friends are going to be doing, what am I interested in, what are my abilities, like in sports, okay, here's my abilities. Definitely in English classrooms, here's my abilities, here's my limitations, as it were. And the one thing about human beings, we don't really have limits. In terms of how much we learn, how fast we can go, we don't really have that many limits. Because as soon as we improve something, as soon as we get better with our reading and writing, our limit is higher. We have more capabilities, so we can learn more and more and more. Because don't limit yourself in terms of going in English classrooms with your self-confidence, with your self-esteem, what you believe about yourself, with how you think, your self-identity. Don't limit yourself. Everything in your life is so malleable and so flexible. Is if you're believing that, oh my God, I don't like my dyslexia, and I feel that I'm in this sort of place where people are bullying me and not having a good sort of time. This malleable, it's flexible. You can get out of that place. You know what I mean? You can get out of the place. Don't limit yourself. Don't limit yourself saying, this is my reality. Because yes, you may be experiencing that right now. But nothing to say you don't have to change that in the next couple of months and say, okay, I can change it because there's no limits on how far I can grow, what I can do. Because talking about this is really talking about the growth mindset, and you mean a fixed mindset. A fixed mindset is, I can't improve it. It is what it is. It's a pessimist thinking, saying, oh yeah, I've got dyslexia, I only can do this well. That's pessimist mindset. Growth mindset is okay, I can do it, I can progress. But we've probably heard this before. So step rule 1, don't limit yourself. Rule 2, find your own path, find your own way of learning. One of the biggest thing I found, we go through the traditional education. And then we realise we get to a point where we have a certain amount of agency, we have a certain amount of control on how we learn. And then we realise, hold on, this way I've been doing for 10 years really doesn't work. Really doesn't work for me. Maybe it worked for them, writing down, taking notes, having this much study time. I need to do something different. I need to speak to a lot more people. I need to have my hand up 10 times more than everyone else. I need to have all these notes, have audios, have this, have that. And really work a lot harder than everyone else to be able to learn, to be able to consume, to be able to apply. Because one of the biggest things, don't trust people when they tell you how to learn. Don't trust people when they tell you how to process things, how to do things. It's all a matter of testing. It's a game of testing, see what works. You do a couple of things, see if you learn it. You do a couple more things, you see you learn that. The only reason why I improved my reading and writing ability 500% more in 1 year, being outside my dyslexic school, is because I didn't do what people told me to do. I did what I felt worked best for me. And when you're at a certain stage, not when you're 4, 5, 6, but when you're at a certain stage in your life, often that can happen. That you can understand what works, understand when you're learning, understand when it feels right, and really start using that. Stop, throw away the rule book on how things used to be done, and really set your own path. Set your own way, because ultimately your brain is wired differently than everyone else's. It is. Your brain is wired differently. And work in a way that your brain is wired. And how you do that? You don't do that by listening to people. Yes, there's guidance. Yes, there's 3D images and create everything in images and do that. But yes, there's guidance. Look at the guidance, test that guidance out, and see what works for you. That's it. And no rule book, okay? So rule number 3 is have a reason to get up. Have a reason to go through the pain. What I mean by this is when it's getting really hard, when you're struggling, when you're working twice as hard as everyone else, but yet you're still failing and everyone else is succeeding. Have a strong reason to get up. have a strong motivation, have a strong goal, have it like, okay, you're fighting for what? You're fighting for what? You're fighting to get a grade, you're fighting to prove something to yourself, you're fighting the system, you're fighting, you mean to be able to succeed in the future. What are you fighting? Have a reason for the fight, because let's be honest, sometimes it can be very hard to have dyslexia. People say things, people do things, you know what I mean? Like people may not believe in you. You may fail so many times, it may not be working, but you have to have a reason to get up and fight. Have a reason to keep pushing, have a reason to keep moving forward in this. Because one thing that really resonated with me when I was going through all the different summit interviews is that like they went through tremendous struggle, failed multiple times. You mean like failed more times than I have fingers on really important things, but they kept trying, and I was like to them, why? And they had a goal. They're like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to prove my dyslexia wrong. I'm going to do this because I'm going to be an artist. I'm going to do this because I'm going to do what I love. I'm going to do this because this is the person I have. I'm going to do this because what choice do I have? They have a strong reason to do it, and that's why they are where they are. Because they had a strong reason to do it, okay? Rule number 4 is get educated. What I mean by this is, look, there's information out there, like this podcast, like other things out there, that give you valuable information that will massively improve your life. Now, get educated, not to just understand dyslexia, all the ins and outs and the different brain elements and all the 6 different types of dyslexia. No, that's useless. Like, in my opinion, that's rather useless. Get educated on tangible, like you mean actionable things. Get educated, okay, on dyslexic, how can dyslexics study best? How can dyslexics learn best? How can dyslexics learn to talk to people? How can dyslexics, you mean plan and organise? What are the struggles people with dyslexia face and how to overcome them? And then learn something and then apply it. Because the more educated we are and the more we can apply stuff, the more effective we are going to be out there. What's that right there? So number 5, so the 5th belief, I'm going to leave that one. The 5th rule, I'm going to say, so 4th one is get educated, it's so important. The 5th rule is, I basically read this thing, I live by this, but you can just call it as so many different names, but CNI, constant never-ending improvement. That's the way that I want to language this, because basically you probably never heard that word before. CNI, basically, I'll give you a little bit of backstory. Here's a little story time. In World War II, China got bombed. It was horrific, and they, absolute poverty, and they got known for building rubbish, crappy, basic products. That's how they were known. But they employed a guy from America to come over there for quality control. Now, I'm sorry, I can't remember his name. But basically, he went over there and he worked for companies like Toyota, companies like Samsung. And he said, okay, this is our foundation. We have to be known for quality products. We have to be known for reliability, which that's completely opposite of what they will learn. And how he helped them install this is by basically saying, okay, we can have a new language. We can have this language called CNI. And what does CNI mean? I think they might have a different word for them over there because different languages, but constant never-ending improvement, okay? Constant never-ending improvement. That's what CNI means, okay? And basically say, okay, we have to be constantly never-ending improvement in all these different areas in our product making, in this, in that. Because basically, he used a way to raise the people in China's standard to produce quality products by changing their language, saying CNI. What's your CNI in your productivity? What's your CNI in your sales? What's your CNI in that? Constant never-ending improvement. Therefore, they're always focusing how can be constant never-ending improvement. And that's really what life is. Now, I remember I got told this, and I'm listening to Tony Robbins and stuff. I got told this about constant never-ending improvement. I was like, oh, this is cool, but this is a really, really hard thing to be dedicated to. And this was years ago. But now I'm really realizing the power of this, because it's not like you give everything and you have to do everything all the time. And no, sometimes you fall off the bandwagon for a few days or a few weeks or whatever. And sometimes you're not always as good as you want to be. But the purpose, it's not about always getting better. It's about always doing daily actions to improve yourself. If you fall off, just get back right on and continue to improve yourself. So what's your CNI in all these? Because all these other steps we said about Don't limit yourself with dyslexia about finding your purpose, about learning about what your dyslexia is, and all these things. And what's your constant ever improving? How can you install this? Like I said at the beginning, how can you install this in a habit, in a place that can keep you moving forward, that can keep you kind of like leveling up, as it were? And I feel this has to be such value to you. Now, the main thing I want you to get from this is, yes, these are common, these are really important rules, and yes, you may have heard these things before in different language in a different way. But the main thing I want you to get from this is use this. Have a process of constant, never-ending improvement. Don't just listen to podcasts for 6 months to deal with. Basically, you're dealing with loads of emotional issues, like your work says you're going to fire you unless you solve these problems, or like something with your relationship or something. You reach the point where I've got to do something about it, because this is what I call the boiling point. It's reached to a point where, oh my God, I've got to do something about it. This is so painful. I have to do something about my dyslexia. Then you spend 6 months diving in, or 6 weeks or whatever, and doing loads of podcasts, loads of this, get on Zoom calls, spend some money somewhere and get help. And then once you get a lot of help on the need, that need is solved, and you stop going out there and spending the time, spending the money to get that help. And you stop worrying about it. But guess what happens in a year's time? You stop worrying about it, you stop thinking about it, and you get into the old habits of things, and then the same problems start rising back up because you didn't constantly, never-ending improve. Now, how can you do this? This is a big topic to cover, but I don't mean this is a thing how we can think about our life, and it really comes down to really creating a structure for our life, because this is the thing, dyslexics are really bad at organisation. We can either go 2 ways. We can either do it like OCD, where we go overboard without planning, or we don't do any planning at all. I would really recommend going overboard without planning, start railing it in, being a bit more civil, be a bit more relaxed, because I really feel that's the way. But once you start making a little system for our life, a little process for our life that we do consistently, and we feel off when we don't do it. So basically, we want to do it at planning every single time until we get to a point where when we don't do it, we feel weird, we feel off, we don't feel not normal. Because that's the way we sort of installed our identity. And keep on doing that. I know for me, it took me a couple of years to get to that point, but I feel this really important. Anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed today's episode. I'll see you again soon.